My name is Lawrence Ray, also known as LRW3, and today I got one of the true OGs of the podcast, man. I'm talking real day one before we started doing all these crazy numbers. He was here with me, man, putting up just as much effort as people do now, so I definitely appreciate him. Y'all already know him, but just for fun, we're going to have him introduce himself again.
Hey, y'all, you probably remember me, Dante Hancock. Just like Lawrence said, I was one of the original people on this podcast. I saw him doing his work, and I said, hey, I know him from childhood. I see he's growing up doing things, and I just wanted to be part of the project. So it was more than getting my face out there. I just wanted to kind of reconnect with old people, and I'm just here to just give advice, give my experiences, because unfortunately in today's date, talking is seen as you're weak or you're not strong, especially as a black man. If you talk, cry, you're seen as weak. So I'm here just to tell other people it's okay to talk, especially with the stuff I'm going through. Sometimes you just got to talk. So
no, that's a fact, and I remember that's one of the original reasons you ended up coming, and we ended up connecting, and we'll get into it, during this conversation about some of the things. But yeah, it's definitely great to have you back, man. We missed you. Like I always told you, man, your seat's always open. Nobody can take your spot, man. So we appreciate you coming back. People, like I said, the OG ones know you. They know your story already. But for the people who probably recently started watching, maybe they're not too familiar with you. So like I tell everybody when we do an interview, I like to build a foundation so they can get to know you, know your background, and kind of know everything you got going on. So let's just start it kind of simple, man. Tell these people where you're from.
I'm from Warner Robins. Been here since '99. Went to middle school, high school, graduated college from here. So everybody in the town knows me. If you've been on base back in the day hooping, you probably recognize me.
He was there every day.
That's where I remember this cat from hooping on base. But fast forwarding to now, currently married, be married 4 years in April. So shout out to my wife for sticking through me through some tough times. And really growing up, I had a lot of mental issues with a family, and I couldn't really talk about it. So when I saw Lawrence's podcast, I said, this is perfect time to talk, because I was going through a time where I really had no one to talk to. I cut off my family because we just weren't getting along. So I had to find other people I could relate to. So that was actually my main goal of coming on the podcast. Not necessarily to get my face out, but just to be around other people who was going through what I go through.
Definitely.
And it's definitely helped me, So that's why I tell a lot of people it's okay to talk, especially as African American. It's okay to talk. So that's
a fact. Now I know you said you did middle school, high school, and college all in Middle Georgia. What made you stay local? Was there a certain reason, or it just happened like that?
It just happened like that. My dad's retired military. He retired here in 1999. And we've been here ever since then. But I've been itching to move, man. So
nothing wrong with that at all. So let's go back to the childhood. When you were younger, I know you dealt with epilepsy. For the people who probably heard that, like me, I've heard of it before, but I'm not gonna pretend I truly know what it is. So for the people who maybe like me, kind of explain what it was and how it was like dealing with that at a younger age.
Honestly, it was real tough for me. I was actually the only person in my family that had epilepsy.
What is epilepsy?
It's a neurological disorder. Brain waves that have normal functions. Like when you move, it fires a function to like move your arm, move your hand. Like as I'm talking now, that's my brain firing functions to move my mouth and pronounce these words. So
like, is it when you try to talk? And I don't mean be disrespectful at all. Just trying to understand. Yeah. Like when you would try to talk, it wasn't like.
Well, it was really random. Like sometimes I would just have episodes where my brain waves would just start firing off like gunshots, just bang, bang, bang. So I would have inadvertent reactions like, shaking or passing out and trembling. And most common one was your head turns to the side and you literally start having fizz coming out your mouth.
Okay, I thought that's what it was, because I was... Yeah, like I said, anybody who has it to deal with, I mean, no disrespect at all. I was trying to, because I know like some people have those reactions. I'm like, is that like, it sounded like Tourette's at first. I didn't know if it was like Tourette's or if it was something different. Yeah, I can understand, especially as a kid, not understanding what's going on, can't control it. Just talk to those experiences, like I said, because you were the only one in your family who dealt with it. So it's not even like you had somebody else around who you could just like ask anything about it.
And that's why I always say it's okay to talk, because I was growing up with that. And I was literally the only person in my family that had it. So my family didn't know how to deal with it. And I felt guilty. I'm just like, why me, And epilepsy, it's like 1 in 4,000 people. So I used to always ask myself, out of 4,000, why did I get it?
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
I tried so hard to fit in with my family. And honestly, there were times where I felt like I didn't really belong because they were normal, they were healthy. But I was the one constantly in and out of the hospital, on medication, having my brain scanned every 3 or 4 months. So a lot of times it just didn't make sense to me.
I'm sure, hopefully they didn't. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't. Did your family ever make you feel like a burden for that or no? I'm pretty sure I would hope they were supportive to you.
They were supportive, but I can kind of tell like they were.
It's like they support you, but it's tiring at the same time.
Yes.
That's understandable, of course. That is a lot to deal with. But again, it's not your fault, but it's still a lot to take on. I'm pretty sure they meant nothing by it. It's just like, it takes a lot to deal with, man. And you kind of spoke to like dealing with that as a child, so young. Did it eventually stop, didn't it?
Miraculously, it did. I was diagnosed with epilepsy at age 9.
Yeah.
And then from 9 to 17, I was on over 10 different medications, in and out of the hospital. Then my neurologist decided, hey, time to have a brain operation. So going back to the show I was on a few months ago, 15 years ago, that's when I had the operation. So it went from epilepsy, sometimes before my surgery, I had epilepsy 3 times a day. Sometimes a grand mal seizure where I would literally pass out, wake up, sometimes wake up in the hospital, and they had to keep me overnight to monitor and make sure nothing happened.
This was on up till you was 17?
Yep.
Like, that's crazy to think that, you got picked on for something out of your control. I could definitely see.
And even when I try to do normal stuff, like I understand like physical activity made it worse because, the stress from even exercising, you get stressed. So stress makes the epilepsy more probable to happen. So even when I did things non-stressful, like I loved ROTC. Like I was in ROTC back in high school, people make fun of you for dressing up, being in uniform.
Yeah.
And I loved this, but I would still have seizures at drill camp. All we're doing is marching and holding our rifle, and I would still literally pass out in front of people. And even when I was doing something that was non-physical, it would still happen. So it was just like I can't even do anything without having any issues. So yeah, it was a tough time for me during that time.
I don't want to say I can imagine because I don't, that's a tough time. I don't want to disrespect what you went through, but yeah, that's a lot. So, but after 17, have you had any since then?
Thankfully, I've been seizure-free since 2011.
God bless.
Yeah,
definitely.
After my surgery, I only had an episode every 4 or 5 months, compared to 3 days a week or 3 times a day. And then, surprisingly, I guess God came down and blessed me, and it just stopped. So I've been symptom-free, medication-free since 2012, 2011-ish. So
God bless. I'm glad to hear that. And that's crazy, like I said, because I used to see you all the time, just hooping and stuff. And I would have never, and that's like you said, you got to talk, because I would have never assumed, especially then, not to hype you up, man. You was one of the most athletic guys. Every time I seen you, was up one of the quickest, fastest guys, strongest guys out there. Now, I'm not even trying to hype you up. I'm just being real. I would have never assumed that you was dealing with that. So it's crazy, even at a young age, how you were handling it. Like you said, you were dealing with it, on the inside and struggling with it there. But at least when you went out, you weren't like showing it to people. You were carrying it well, which says a lot about you. So, of course, we talked about the epilepsy and just how, that was affecting your family. But let's also go into like your upbringing and how, that was just outside of epilepsy, just, everything else, just dealing with your childhood. Because like I said, people who seen you here for multiple episodes, they probably heard it. We know what you dealt with. You've been very forthcoming about that. But again, for the people who don't know you or just happen to click on this video, just talk about your upbringing and things like that.
Well, I always think of the term, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Because growing up with epilepsy and feeling like the black sheep of my family, honestly, there were times where I felt like I didn't really belong on earth. It didn't help that my mom was a little bit chaotic. She went through some things, and then she put that baggage a little bit on me. She used to always tell me this story, like her sister committed suicide by ingesting rat poison, and I was going through a tough time. So, I imagine myself, what if I went that route? But I knew that would hurt. I knew that would hurt, so I would never do it. And I always told myself if I could just fall asleep and then never wake up, I'd be fine because I didn't belong. I feel like I didn't belong in my family, and that's true to this day. Like I still haven't talked to my family. We had an outing and they didn't even want to listen to me. So I always kind of felt like the black sheep. But I told myself it's okay to be the black sheep. So that's why I tell a lot of people, if you're the black sheep of the family, God puts you there for a reason, because you rather be on your own, independent, make your own choices, rather than having a family where you're afraid to make choices because you're afraid of what they'll think. That's what I learned from the whole experience.
Yeah, that's like I tell everybody when it comes to making your own decisions.
Exactly.
Nobody has to live with your decisions but you.
Exactly.
So, and it's a lot of people who are unhappy on the flip side. Instead of just making their own decisions, even if it, it kind of messes up communication with their family, they'll just do what their family says, and now you resent them for a whole different reason. But it's the same disconnect you all are having, just from the opposite end of the spectrum. So, I mean, I wish, I'm not gonna pretend. I wish you, of course, were closer with your family, because everybody wants that, whether they're capable of having it or not. Everybody would like that, but at least you made the best decision for yourself. And time is still there to hopefully mend those fences and get you all back together. So let's go to this next one, man, because again, I know you mentioned you thought about suicide before. Anybody, like I said, who's seen you, we know about the depression you dealt with. What advice? Now, like you said, because you were in a position where you thought about it, but you didn't do it. What exactly made you not do it? And is that some advice maybe you could pass along to somebody who might have been in that same position and who probably isn't as strong as you and might be struggling with it a little bit more than maybe you were?
I always tell people, there's always people out there that care about you. So if you did anything to hurt yourself, you got to think about who you're affecting too. Even if you don't talk to them, they're still going to care about you. They're still going to wish, why I wasn't there. So there's always people that care about you.
That's a fact.
And I'm speaking from experience. When I first met my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. We came from the same background, so we could always talk about depression, anxiety. And there was a time where I was just not feeling myself, and I think I waited till she was asleep, and I went downstairs and I put a knife to my wrist and contemplated cutting myself. But I told myself, how would my girlfriend feel about this?
That's deep.
And then I didn't do it because I was just thinking about her. How would it affect her? And I was right. The next day, when she woke up, I told her that, I went downstairs and almost did it. And then she started crying, and I saw the pain it would have caused on her. And that's just contemplating. So if you actually did it, just imagine how those who love and respect you and want to be around you, just imagine how they feel if you went through with it. So to a lot of people, just don't do it. It's not worth it. Get help first, and of course talk. That's why I'm talking now. Talk. When you talk, you feel better.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna ask this question, and I'm a pretext this question with. I see you and your wife photos all the time. You all a beautiful couple. You all look happy. I'm glad. And anybody, again, if you see this man, one thing you can bet on anytime you see this man, he's going to mention two things. His wife is a model, and he loves his wife. That's two things I've always respected and appreciated on you, as how much you truly care for your wife. Let me ask you this, though, and because I didn't know that until you just said it, how you all came from similar backgrounds. Not saying you all did it, but I'm going to frame this more general than to you all. I mean, if you want to kind of answer it specific to you all, how did you know that your wife was the one for you and you all weren't trauma bonding? Because that's something very easy to do if, people are used to being alone. Because I'm going to be honest on my own self. I've done that with a female before where, we probably shouldn't have been together, but because of our backgrounds, you just so used to being alone that it's easy once you have somebody that you just keep them there. How did you know that it wasn't just like a trauma bonding situation and, hey, no, this is, because you clearly made the right decision, but did you know that at the time it wasn't trauma bonding, or you just kind of lucked into that?
I think my instincts kicked in because I always tell her this story, and she always says it's cheesy. She don't believe me. We met in July of 15 because we used to work together at Kohl's. And the moment I saw her, I looked at her and I said, okay, if I talk to her, I'm getting off Tinder. I'm getting off Plenty of Fish. I'm cutting all my side chicks out because I'm not, you look at someone, you said, yeah, I definitely wouldn't cheat on her. And then we talked for a little bit. I mean, we shared some interests. She was into poetry. I wrote poetry too. I can tell she was very seclusive with what she wanted to talk about. So she wasn't like one of those females that just throws herself out there. And I was the same way too. I had a lot of trauma, so I had to be careful how I talk to people, and
Because you don't want to overwhelm them.
yeah, and I had to be careful about trusting people what I tell them. So I sensed we were kind of the same. So I told myself, if I talk to her, I'm not talking to nobody else. But a few months later, she moved. Well, she had to move to go back to California, and I told her, I feel like we'll see each other again. I just said that out of instinct, and I don't know, just to make her feel better. But part of me felt like that. And then 6 months later, and I felt like she was in town for some reason. And then I messaged her, she was back in. So I was like,
So you didn't even know she was in town. You just happened to look up.
I don't know, something kicked. I was like, I feel like she's back in town for some odd reason. Just something was telling me she's back. And then I messaged her, she said, yeah, she's back. And that's when I said, hey, I feel like we have connection. So I started talking to her more. And I can tell she had a lot of trauma. She didn't just throw herself out there. So I knew we related instantly because I had a lot of trauma too. So I felt like we connected even though we weren't connecting yet. I felt that spiritual connection already.
That's deep. That's deep. And I'm so happy for both of you all. Like, people who go through a lot, man. Because most people would like cave themselves off. So the fact that both of you all went through the same situation and were still open and receptive, man, that's dope, man.
And it proved my point because I haven't talked to my family in 3 years because they're selfish, and you really connected with her family probably about 3 years the same way because, sometimes when you're the black sheep of the child, you're the black child of the family or black sheep, they kind of look at you as not relatable because we don't have, I don't have any issues compared to my family. She has no issues compared to them. So they're looking at us as like, we're not relatable because my family barely reached out to me and they barely reach out to her. But in their worlds, they had issues, so they could kind of bounce ideas off each other. Versus us, we got our shit together, so they can't really relate to us. So that helps us stay stronger. As we're both black sheep, so we're just gonna come together and keep making each other stronger. So
no, that makes sense. And of course, like I said, beautiful couple. You all are doing excellent, and you found your forever. You found your wife. Sorry, ladies, he's off the market, but we got to talk about before you met your wife. I can't let you slide now.
Yeah.
So before we were blessed with your wife, you of course you didn't have a serious relationship. Why is that?
Honestly, I didn't feel like a normal person until I was about 25 because growing up with epilepsy, in and out of the hospital, on different medications, I literally felt like a test rat, a test dummy. And I literally thought that was my purpose because I was always coddled by my parents because they were constantly taking me to appointments. I couldn't get my permit till I was 22. I didn't get my license till I was about 23, 24.
Is it because of the epilepsy?
Yep. Because
as somebody, we both work insurance. I can understand it, to be honest, on the insurance standpoint, especially like as somebody like I handle claims, so I've dealt with those situations where so it is a risk, I guess.
Yeah.
But
so when I turned 25, that's when I finally got my car, finally made friends, finally started hanging out.
Now, when you say make friends, we kind of skipped over on each other. Did you have a lot of friends growing up? Like I said, because I'm going to be honest, and I'm not being funny, because every time I used to see this guy, he was with a lot of people, very personable, a lot of people he always with. Every time I seen him, he was very well liked. So like when you tell me this stuff, I'm like, when was this? Because this is the same guy I saw all the time.
That's a lot of that's a lot of stuff I didn't talk about. Because when I talk about it, I feel like self-guilt and trauma. So, but that's even worse when you don't talk about it because you got to keep it bottled inside you. Eventually, it's going to blow up, and you don't want it to blow up on the wrong person who didn't do anything.
Absolutely. So, did we have a lot of, not to skip over, we're going to go back to as far as, while we weren't have a serious relationship until we were 25, but as far as friends growing up, I kind of skipped over that. Did we have a lot of consistent friends?
It was more off and on. I just didn't get along with a lot of people because me, myself, having epilepsy and in and out of the hospital, I was very self-conscious. So in grade school, I tried too hard to act out. So I was trying to express myself, but the way I was doing it, a lot of people saw me as like a class clown, kind of asshole. And parent-wise, I didn't get along with a lot of parents. There were so many parents coming to my folks' house saying, hey, you need to watch your kid.
Yeah.
And now I look back, I'm like, damn, I was that bad. Like I used to start fights for no reason.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of people don't believe me because they, you know, I'm probably the most chill guy. But
Yeah, like you super chill, always smiling. Like Dante out here fighting people? Why? Like I don't even see a situation.
yeah, I told my wife that. She was like, really?
Like, I've never seen you not smiling, let alone angry enough to want to fight. That's crazy. But nah, I can't let you get away with it. So why were we not taking nobody serious until, you know, your wife basically?
Man, like I said, when I was 25, that's when I finally got my car, finally felt like I was a normal person. I finally got off my medication so I could feel not anxiety, not suicidal, less suicidal than anxiety. So I feel like I could talk to people now. Because even before then, I was always in the house by myself because I didn't really know how to connect with people. So when I turned 25 and all that stuff happened, that's when I really started dating. But I just had a lot of trauma, and I just didn't feel comfortable up until a certain age. That's when I met my wife, that's when I started, well, when I met my girlfriend at the time, I started seeing therapy before that. Because I knew she was the one, and, you know, I can't bring that baggage onto her.
That's deep.
Because it's like, you know, something told me that, yeah, she's, you know, the one I'm going to marry, the one I'm going to be with. And I was trying my best not to bring that baggage onto her. So I saw therapy before, you know, we got serious. So I always call myself the late bloomer. You know, I started off late, but as I said before, it's, you know, not really how you start. It's, you know, as long as you finish strong.
You might have started off late, but
Yeah,
trust me,
super late.
man.
Yeah.
People can lie and say what they want. It is not fun out here being single. I would trade all random females, whatever, every day of the week to have one consistent person you could wake up to, you could love unconditionally. Don't let anybody lie. We all want to be you. Like, we all want that as far as having somebody that consistent. I know you dealt with keeping things to yourself for the longest. What made you one day just decide to start being so open and honest about things and just say it's time?
I think I finally grew into my own person where I feel like I could talk, because I come from a family where it's like, it's kind of weird. You got to like get things approved before you come out with it. It's just kind of hard being independent in the kind of family I come from, because they all want to be like one energy.
Yeah.
And the moment you want to split off and do your thing, they're just like, no, we can't relate to you anymore. And your own family doing that, you just start feeling really isolated. So, you know, you don't want to go to that feeling where you don't feel part of your family. So that was me growing up. You know, I've always wanted to do different stuff, but it's not something my family was into. So I didn't want to feel like I was different from them. Like I play the keyboard, but I used to play it in private because it's not really something they like.
That's a legit talent, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like they're not the type of family that like, you know, go find your talent, go find what's out there. Because even with the military, I told them I'm still waiting on MEPS and all that, and they just said, you know, why don't you just quit? Or I'm just like, no, that's something I want to do, so you should like support me.
Yeah.
So I got old enough to where I looked back and said, man, I went through a lot of stuff, and growing up in a family like that, you know, you got to hold that baggage in, and that's not healthy. There are times where I used to lay in my bed and just face the wall and just cry, sometimes 3 times a day. But I couldn't cry in front of my family because, you know, they would start freaking out. So I got old enough to see therapy, and it helped. And especially when I met with my girlfriend, who was going to eventually be my wife, you know, I couldn't bring that baggage onto her. So I had to get help, because it's going to come out eventually. Because I recently started seeing therapy again. I actually saw my therapist today around 2 o'clock.
That's good. That's definitely good.
And I also learned a lot. As you get older, you start looking back at a lot of stuff, and you start reflecting on it. Like, man, you know, why did I go through that? Why did that happen to me? So, you know, like I said, going back to the suicide thing, that's something you never want to do because it's going to affect other people. So in my case, if I'm having all this baggage, all this trauma, and I'm keeping it in, you know, my wife is going to be the one who's going to suffer from it, you know, because she's going to constantly be asking, is he okay? You know, what's wrong with him? Why is he not this? And if I keep telling her, oh, no, I'm fine, eventually she's going to start wondering, no, something's wrong.
Yeah, even something as simple as when she leave the house, you got to worry about what you're doing when she's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm proud of you, man. If nobody told you they proud of you, I'm proud of you. From like you said, you getting into therapy, you're always open with your wife. Even like beginning of the podcast, coming, being so forthcoming and honest, just really always.
That's why I had to come to that mental health one. When you said mental health, I said I got to be there.
Yeah, no, that was.
I got to be there.
I think that was. I mean, you had came to ones before that.
Yeah.
But nah, that was the one I was like, okay, nah, this guy right here different. Like, nah, this is real right here, man. And I appreciated you so much. Even that one, man, you were one of the main people, just forthcoming with information, straightforward, not trying to sugarcoat it. And I think that did a lot. Not just for the podcast itself. That definitely helped the podcast grow as a platform, but just two, for people who weren't there in person, who just happened to watch it, just seeing, okay, I'm not alone. Okay, I understand other people going through things just like he did. Now he's talking to me. He's being honest. I can be honest. I definitely think you don't give yourself enough credit. You probably help more people, not just from sitting here with me, but just you yourself, how you're out and open into the world. Because you're always so supportive of people. You're always so positive that I think you don't realize your power. It might have been some people who you just smiled at or said congrats that they needed that. But no, don't shortchange yourself, man. You make so much great impact for not, like I said, just not me. You do great things for me, myself. So I know for a fact you do great things, but just past me to everybody else, man. You're definitely making a very big impact. I'm glad you're not having suicidal thoughts or anything like that no more, man, because we need you. Your wife needs you. I need you. Everybody you came in contact with, man. Don't shortchange that impact you make on all of us.
I would say it's okay to, when I say it's okay to talk, that's why I saw a therapist, because it's still, some days I gotta wake up and
every day is a new battle, man. But
I gotta wake up and tell myself, hey, you're okay, you're fine.
Yeah, every day is a battle, but it at least sounds like you're winning most days more than you're losing. So long as we're winning, long as we're consistent in what we're doing, man, you know, we're here for you, whatever we can do to make it easier. Another thing that you started doing to make it easier, you started channeling your energy into boxing. So let's talk about that, man. How was that experience been? Because you've been doing it for a while now. You look a little alright on the videos I'm seeing, man. How you got into that, man, and how's it been going for you?
Man, I've always loved the sport of boxing, but going back to my family, they didn't really watch it, so I didn't want to be the only person who's watching it and feel not part of them. So I used to watch late night fights 11, 12 when everyone was asleep. And I've always wanted to do it, but once my epilepsy hit, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, not to cut you off. Yeah. Is there any, I mean, we know boxing itself is kind of inherently dangerous. You're getting hit, obviously. Is there any increased danger for you with the epilepsy, or no?
That's the crazy part. Growing up being pretty much a handicapped kid, everybody thinking that, oh, he needs help. I actually took boxing as a challenge, because once my epilepsy went away, and I waited about 5-7 years till I was seizure free, I wanted to challenge myself, saying, am I okay? Because epilepsy can come back anytime. Mm-hmm. Stress can trigger it. Not getting enough sleep can trigger it. Drugs can trigger it. And I've been through all of those things, and it never came back. So I told myself, I really want to see if I'm okay. So that's one of the reasons I took boxing. I'm literally getting punched. And me being a heavyweight, I'm fighting other 200-pounders, so I'm getting punched by sledgehammers, and
I was about to ask you. I thought she was a heavyweight. So you are in the heavyweight division.
Yes. So I got to fight other 200-pounders, and when you get punched by one, you gonna feel that. So
it's super heavy. It's like heavyweight and super heavyweight, right?
Yes. Right now, heavyweight is between 198 and 201. Super heavyweight is 202 and above, or actually, even if you're 201.5, you're super heavyweight.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I knew one was basically once you pass this weight, you fight anybody basically past that.
I was on the course to train for an amateur fight. I was under my coach. The lowest weight I got was 205, so I just had about maybe 5 pounds to lose. And then my recruiter called me and said, "Yeah, you got approved." So I've been like, "Oh shit."
So we never actually did a fight?
When I get back from basic, I'm going to get back on track. But I've been trying my best not to get hurt before I go to basic.
No, we understand that completely.
But I'm most likely going to be hard sparring tomorrow. So I'm going to do it one time, because once I go to basic, can't do this anymore for a minute. So
no, yeah, we ready to see. I remember I asked you last time I seen you, man, when the fight. I wanted to see that, man.
Yeah, I was on track, and then my recruiter said, "Yeah, MEPS cleared you." So I'm like, "Oh shit." So now I got to not get hurt before basic.
Please don't get hurt, man. More paperwork we don't need.
But once I get back, I'll get back on it. So
Perfect. So I know when you got into boxing, you were training hard. Like I said, I seen you all the time because you was coming to every podcast. And when you weren't at the podcast, I seen you always working out. And you ended up turning that into your business.
Yes.
Personal training. So, and I see you all the time. If you're looking for a personal trainer, well, I guess you call him, up until he leaves. And then you got to find somebody for a little bit, then call him again when he gets back. But talk about that, because I see you training people of all ages, man. I see you training some kids sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You're helping everybody out. What made you turn this hobby into basically a business?
Well, I came from an athletic family. My dad played basketball, baseball, a little bit of football. My uncle did too. And growing up, I played sports as well. So sports has always been kind of in my family. And then once I had epilepsy, I literally had to stop playing sports because sports literally triggered it. I would play basketball for a little bit, and before I know it, I'm on the ground unconscious. So once my...
Not to cut you off, that never happened to you on base, did it? Or
before my surgery, because I was hard-headed. I used to go to the gym and play and just pass out.
I was at I'm just still shocked, because I was at the gym and you was at the gym every day, and I'm asking this not from the interview standpoint, but just from like my memory. Like, yo, I seen this guy every day and I never knew this. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
But once my epilepsy hit, I couldn't play sports. I couldn't, be healthy anymore. Well, I could, but just not the way I wanted to. So once my epilepsy went away, like I said, it's how you finish. I felt like I had to play catch up. I lost so many years being active, connecting with friends. So I got back into personal training because that's the passion I had. I stayed on it for a little bit, and then once I had issues with my family, that's when I actually started boxing, because I literally thought I was going to have to fight somebody. So
you were training to fight your family?
Just in case. No, I mean, not directly, but just in case. Just some stress relief.
Yeah.
Because I had the incident where my dad literally tried to get in my wife's face, and I had to step in front of him, saying, "Hey, don't come at my wife like that." And then I had my own cousin threatening me, saying, "Hey, give me a date, come here." I'm just like, bro, we too old for this. You're not even part of the picture.
Yeah.
So for a minute, I thought, okay, maybe I might run into these people. Maybe, something might happen, so I might as well be ready. So I started taking it, and it kind of reignited something I always loved growing up. So that's why I stuck to it. And it actually separates me from regular personal trainers, because honestly, most people can be a personal trainer. You just get your certification. But not everybody can effectively, teach you how to box.
No, that's a fact.
And boxing makes workouts fun. It's like that challenge you need, because it's easy to lift weights, it's easy to run suicides. But once people start throwing punches, it's a way for them to release stress and not hurt other people. So I try to use it as a therapeutic tool for others, and make me different from regular personal trainers. So.
No, that's a fact. So like I said, I've seen you training, and every time I see you, you're doing like different workout with people. What all services do you offer?
Well, I do personal training. I do boxing coach. I do meal prepping because I come from a Asian mom, black dad, so I can, I was raised on how to cook. So I do meal prepping as well. Eventually, I'm going to get my massage therapy license to be a masseuse.
So do it all. I'm gonna train you. I'm gonna make you sore. Then don't worry, I got your massage at the end.
And so I learned that you want to learn different trades, because you can only burn out once you burn out on one thing, you're gonna get tired of it. Mm-hmm. So you gotta move on to the next thing. And if you're training in many areas, that makes you more attractive than someone who can just do one thing.
No, that's a fact. That's like even here. I learned how to edit, how to film myself.
Just like you've been doing.
Like the more you're running a business, so the more we can cut the middleman out, the better. So that makes sense. One-stop shop is always the goal. I like that.
Because going back to what I said, there's a lot of personal trainers, but if you know a personal trainer who also teaches boxing, that's going to make you more attractive than someone who just trains. So
yeah, that's a fact.
Why I tell a lot of people, try to learn as much as you can. That's going to make you more attractive than the next person.
So if somebody wanted to book you, how do they go about booking you?
I'm usually on social media. You can type in Dante Hancock on Facebook. I've been getting more active on Instagram, so you can do an Inferno_fitness_training. I just started a Twitter, same thing, but I'm kind of new to Twitter, so just.
I'm not even on Twitter. So.
Yeah, I actually started Twitter to learn more about crypto, because that's where all the cryptocurrency traders are. But best way to reach me is Facebook, Instagram, and respond pretty quickly. So.
Gotcha. Y'all get in contact with him, man. Like I said, make sure you get in contact with him shortly because he's about to be going to do something that's since I met him and since we reconnected through the podcast, it's been something heavy on him. So I am very glad to be seeing this finally come to fruition for you, which is about to be leaving us for a little while to go join the military. As somebody who's currently in the military, man, I just want to be one of the first to welcome my brother in arms, man, joining the ranks. Just talk to us about what that means to you. I know what it means to you because we've had long conversations, multiple podcast episodes right after talking about it and your journey. So I am very happy to see this happening for you. But how has this journey been to get to this point?
Man, I always tell people just keep going. If it's something you want to do, just keep going because eventually someone's going to say yes. Because me growing up with epilepsy, usually with the military, anything neurological is most likely going to be automatically disqualifying.
Yeah.
Whether you got schizophrenia, whether you got even anxiety, they have every right to say no. So me having epilepsy, I thought maybe I had like a 1% chance. Maybe someone will say yes. But I went to the recruiter back in 2013, and I asked, hey, can I, fill out some paperwork?
So you said you went to a recruiter and they slammed the door in your face.
Yep, they said no, and then I actually did some research. They said you got to be like 5 years without epilepsy or medication. So I waited till 2018, which was officially 5 years based on their standards. And I went to the Navy recruiter. He said, okay, we'll send your paperwork up. And I would check with him every 3 months, and he said, okay, we're still waiting. And during the whole time, like, he never asked for any medical clearance from my doctor. He never asked for any records from my pharmacist. So when it got to about 9 months, I asked, hey, is there anything else we can do to speed this up? So he asked me, okay, how long has it been? I told him, and then he got back with me, and he said, yeah, you got to be 5 years. I'm just like, yo, you could have found this out 9 months ago. So I literally sat on my ass 9 months waiting. And then I tried for the Army, and man, I applied for the Army in 2019. I actually didn't get a response until earlier this year in March. I kept having to resubmit. And even though I've been, off medication, they saw it as permanently disqualifying since it's, neurological. So I asked my recruiter, can I, apply for at least the Navy or, I wasn't going to go Marines because I know, But I asked him, can I at least apply for any branch? And my recruiter said, it's the same doctor that looks over everything. So even if I apply for the Navy, the same doctor is going to get my file.
Yeah, because everybody goes to MEPS, and yeah.
So he said, even if you apply for the Navy, it's probably going to be a no because the same doctor's going to look at your stuff. So I thought, hey, that was it. Maybe that's it. And then a Navy recruiter called me and said, hey, we can try to set up your paperwork. Let's see what they say. And I told him the whole spiel. I applied for the Navy back in 18, waited 2 years for the Army. And he said, okay, we can at least try just to see, what they say. And then about 4 months later, it only took 4 months, they said, yeah, MEPS cleared you. So I'm like, oh, shit.
So here we are. We're about
Exactly.
about to join the Navy.
But I'm only going reserve, though. It's just the best decision. Because
I understand. I'm in the reserves.
Yeah.
I 100% understand. So we were about to talk about this earlier. I don't even think the camera was running, or we wouldn't be in here at this point. About the mental health aspect of, like I said, basic training. I've been through basic training with the military. I'm not even gonna pretend it's not as hard as it used to be. They can't touch you. They're not gonna touch you. It's just more little small things. The hardest part, honestly, in basic training is not the physical. It's not really what the drill sergeants, or I don't know what they're called in the Navy.
Probably the same.
Yeah, but it's not what they're doing to you. It's more, man, you alone there. Like,
exactly.
You don't get your phone that often. Maybe, especially in the beginning. Like towards the end, you might get it, every now and then on the weekend. But like being cut off basically from everybody.
Yep.
How are you trying to mentally prepare yourself from that or for that? Because like you said, you like to talk, and you're about to go to a place where, one, you can't really talk about your situations because, one, they're going to kick you out. Let's just be real. And then, two, like, everybody going through something there. They don't even want to hear it. Let's just be honest. As far as the people who's around you, and you're not going to have your circle to really be there for you. How are we prepping for that mentally?
I'm telling myself they're they're just trying to break you. They just want to see, are you fit for this? So anything they throw at you, they're just testing you. So just, I've talked to a lot of people. They just said, just don't get psyched out.
That's it.
If they tell you to do something, they just do it. If they yell in your face, one ear out the other. That's why I learned at Geico. If I get a crazy customer, I'm just one ear out the other. I listen to them, but I'm not going to take it mentally. I'm not going to keep it in my chest, because that's just going to make me feel, what they're trying to do is make me feel shitty. So
the goal,
Yep.
the goal at basic training, the unwritten rule,
Yep.
is to be in the middle. Because when you're in the middle, you're not seen. You don't want to be the super soldier who they call out for everything, but you also don't want to be the shit soldier. That's what we call them. Who that guy. You don't want to be that. You definitely don't want to be that guy. You just want to be in the middle. You don't want to really cause too much, recognition to you one way or the other. Get in, do what you're supposed to, go home. That's the goal. And
I also heard don't volunteer for stuff.
That goes back to the super soldier. Don't be the super soldier, because then let's say you've been volunteering and then you don't feel like volunteering no more. Now you just drew attention to yourself. But if you never did, they don't think about it. But the minute you stop volunteering, what's up with Hancock? What he got going on all of a sudden? Who do we think he is? Why he don't want to do nothing?
Exactly.
So just stay in the middle. Now, of course, do what you're told.
Yep.
Just do your best to stay out the way. That's all you can do. And like I told you before, even when we was on camera or anything, best tip I can give you at basic training, get everybody like that's what I did when I went. I got everybody's addresses. Don't wait till you get there. Get everybody's addresses on the front end. Make sure, when you get there, you can then, because, you can't give them yours because you don't know where you're going to be at. You get there. So when you get there, you can start sending letters, start writing people. Like I started writing people in reception, because you got to think mail, it's going to take a while. So like I'll be writing 2 or 3 letters to people, because you want multiple conversations going on even with the same person. So when they write back and they send it off, then they'll get something else. So you can keep multiple letters coming. So you don't have a phone, but that's a way to still feel connected, with a lot. Like I was writing people who I didn't even really text like that, like when I was home, but just to get a letter, man, that means a lot. So
I'm definitely gonna do that. I didn't know you could do that till you told me. So
get I came with a address book, like full of everybody's addresses. Like, hey man, I'm gonna write you, man. And everybody, of course, they know what you're going through. They write you back. Like everybody I wrote definitely wrote me back, and that made a world of difference, because I saw the people who didn't have a lot of people writing them, or didn't have a lot of people to talk to on mail day. When the drill sergeant gets to throwing everybody's letters, that's what they do. They throw the letters, everybody catches them. And it's like, if you get a lot of letters, you feel like it's a thing. You literally feel better. You feel cool. But it's days like me, I got a lot of letters, but on the one time where it might have been like mail, so no mail came in that day for me, man, that is depressing. I'm not even gonna lie. So just make sure, man, anybody who's willing to write you, man, even me, if you want to write me, I'll write you just because I know.
I got you.
But, get those addresses, man. Make sure you got constant communication with people. Even if y'all ain't talking about nothing, just so you have something to open and just feel connected with where you come back from. But I think you're going to do great. Like I said, I know you're in shape, so physically it's not going to be anything out of the ordinary. Probably going to be, especially what we did is less than what you do now. This ain't nothing for what you're going to compare for. It's just the mental aspect. But I think you're going to do great, man. Like I said, I'm proud of you for that. So at this part, man, this is the open floor. This is basically where you have the right to say whatever you want to say. Any shout outs, anything you want to do, man, as we close this thing out.
Well, you guys remember from the old show, I always give a shout out to my wife. I mean, honestly, I told her all my trauma. I told her everything, and, she understands. And instead of, seeing me as crazy, she said, hey, go get therapy. Instead of seeing me as weak and someone who can't handle it. Unfortunately, that's the bad part about being a black man, is if you can't handle trauma, you're seen as weak, But my wife was completely opposite. She said, hey, I'm here for you. Go get therapy. Go seek help. So I definitely give her a shout out for understanding what I went through and not turning a blind eye. And, just basically keep us together, because outside of her, I really have no other family. I don't talk to my family because...
Hey, man, you got your podcast family, man. We big as they come. I be seeing every time you write something, now everybody be underneath there, and vice versa. You be underneath everybody's stuff, too.
So I always our situation, I always tell people just, take your time, find a relationship, because I've been through it. I was rushing into relationships and ended up getting hurt. So I just took my time and we ran into each other. And, I definitely give a shout out to her for understanding my trauma because, sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm not trying to brag, a lot of people say, hey, you're attractive, you got that pretty boy look. But I tell them all these things and they said, wow, I never knew you had this. You look like, you look like you could be on a magazine. You look like you could be a model. But unfortunately, social media teaches us that, perfect people should have a perfect attitude. But me, I'm complete opposite. So definitely, talk to someone. It's okay to talk to somebody. Because I wouldn't be here if I didn't meet someone like my wife or, So
That's deep.
And I definitely thank her for keeping me motivated for the military. Because there were times where I wanted to quit, and she said, just stay patient, just keep going. We had some disagreements because that weight that can cause stress, but she just said, hey, if this is what you want to do, just keep going with it. And we're gonna stay strong for each other while I'm gone, while she's gone. Because like I said, we don't have family to talk to, so we're literally gonna be on our own.
How long is the Navy basic training?
They say it's 10 weeks, but I believe it's gonna be 8 weeks.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
What about your AIT? You know how long that is?
I don't know. They didn't break it down. They said everything is going to be up to 26 weeks. So it's like
Okay, yeah. So like you're probably basically training 8 to 10 weeks,
Yep.
and then the other one is for your actual training for your military job.
Yep. So
Okay, not bad. Okay.
and of course, definitely shout out to Lawrence here, man. When he put mental health, man, that's why I came, because I was going through some stuff and I needed to talk and needed to relate to other people because I had no friends. Friends I had for 10 years, they showed their true colors and I had to cut them off. And I felt like I wasted a lot of time. And family I was so invested in, I had to cut them off too. So I had to find that new bunch, that new people to, be around. So, that's why I had to come back here one time, so I could be in that environment again.
Hey man, we proud of you. Like I said, I tell everybody, man, the love doesn't stop just because you're not on camera, man. You don't have to get in any other video. We're gonna support you the same. We're gonna celebrate you the same. That doesn't just mean you got to come sit in the camera to get that. Of course, I'm glad that you especially everything you got going on, what you're mentally preparing for. You decided you wanted to come check in with me. That's definitely an honor.
Had to.
But regardless, man, we would have celebrated you the same, if you never got, or if you never get back in front of this camera, man. Doesn't change. We're proud of you. We're gonna support you, and we're just happy to see everything that you not only deserve, but you worked for. Like I said, you put 10 years into this, what you're about to go do, just trying to go do it. Most people would have been said, man, I'm cool. It ain't meant to be.
That's why I say it's okay to be a black sheep, because if I was still close to my family, I would have gave up on the military a long time ago.
Yeah,
which is hypocritical. My dad did Air Force 20 years, so you would think he'd be pushing me, keep going, but even he didn't really support. He didn't half-hearted, just said, okay,
And sometimes from inside the military too, once you learn certain things, like me, I'm not gonna front. Being in the military, if my son want to do it, of course I support him. Like my father was in the military, he supported me. But even he was like, yeah, do it. Just do your research, because even now that's what I tell my son. Because the military, it's not glamorous. I'm gonna be honest. It's a lot of stuff that you don't really understand till you're in it.
Yep.
And even like with me, like with my son, it's one of those, if you truly want to do it, how you truly want to do it, I'm 100%. That's what you really want to do. You've done your research. But if it's kind of one of those where you're just doing it to do it, that's not the best thing, because you're going to hate every day of it. And it's not like a job. When you hate it, you could just leave. Like, no, you are here for this contract. So I can definitely understand, a parent, if a child has other options that they don't necessarily need to, I can respect that. But if a child is as committed as you were, you gotta stand behind them. You gotta support that. But regardless, we're happy to see that it's came to fruition, and we know you're gonna be excellent there. Any last words or anything you want to say though before we close this out?
I say, man, I really appreciate y'all for having me on the show. Y'all are kind of the outlet I needed, because I was going through a tough time and I just needed, a new group to connect with.
You say, oh, y'all shit, man. This your man. You was here for this your show too. What you
Well,
mean,
it
man?
really meant a lot. That time you told me people was like, "Hey, when's
Like,
so coming back?" I was like, "Oh wow."
I still like every now and then. I still like we don't even do the podcast that often no more, just because I'd be so busy. But when we do it, man, you know, every now and again when I post a video, everybody, you know, hey, when old boy coming back, and I be like, who? Now they don't. I'm not gonna pretend they don't always remember you by name. Some remember me by name. Others be like, you know, the guy who always talks about his wife. I'm like, okay. Nah, you know, he be busy. Y'all know if he can, he always makes it when he can, man. But yeah, we're proud of you, man. We're gonna be wishing you well, and hopefully when you get back and you get settled, man, we can get you on another podcast then, man.
Oh, yeah,
tell us how it went for you.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, if you don't have anything else to say, my name is Lawrence Ray, and we are done.